Okay, so here, what we're going to do, first thing we're going to do is we are going to add a name attribute, because when we submit these pages, the parameters that are available on the servlet end are based off this name attribute and not off the ID. Now the next thing we're going to do, now this here can be any, it can be a button, it can be an input, doesn't matter. In fact, I think I'll put it back to a button. And the next thing we have to do is in our pom.xml, we need to add a section for the Servlet API so that our application compiles properly. Okay. And you just get that at the Maven website. Next, what we'll do is we'll add a new servlet to the application. There it is. So we want to select this so that it ends up in creating a web.xml. And what we want is the URL to be just inputs with lowercase I. And that's it. So now what's going to happen here is it created a web.xml file. And you can see that it's got a inputs URL and it points to our new class. Now here we can actually pick up the values that we're going to send through. So we can say first name is equal to and then here inside the page we can just quickly output the information. So it's all going to be out.println something. New line, first name, and then the first name. First name, birthday, email address. That should come right out. So this one, essentially here, we're going to grab the data and we're going to show it. We've done nothing yet. We will have to do some work here to clean it up, to sanitize. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Great. So here you go. The first two items are filled. You see the results here and here. Now what we're going to need to do is go back here and do the sanitation part with the EsApi. All right, so here we can validate our date by passing in the expected values. Now, if we go to the EsApi Java docs, we can see that there's a validator function, and then from there we can ask some questions like, is valid date? And what it wants is a context, the input string, the date format, whether or not you can allow nulls. So let's give that a try. So the context usually is just simply any kind of text you want. And the actual value is this. Birth date. And the date format So with the date format on the web page, we had year, month, date. And simple date format would work in this way. YY dash month, which would be MM capitalized, and day would be lowercase dd. This looks so. And whether or not we want to allow nulls, which we do not, false. So this is good date. Okay. So now what we can do is we can put into our, here beside the birth date, we can also include out.println date message, date message is equal to nothing, just an empty string. If not is a good date, then what we'll do is we'll set our message to bad date. Expected format, year, month, day. Great. Is valid date. Okay, so here you'll see that it needs a properties file. So what we'll have to do is go and get a sample properties file for that. Okay, so what we can do is we can go to the open source EsApi web GitHub. We can go and grab their sample properties files. So just go grab that. Oh, let's see here. So there's there's one here, validation.properties, which is for registering various patterns, regular expressions for various kinds of patterns. So we'll grab that. And we'll put it in our project. And then the other thing we can grab is the EsApi properties. Okay, so now let's go look at those before we actually use them. They're mostly just comments. So this one here is essentially for testing purposes. So when it first loads, it'll print out all the properties. In production, you would set that to false. These are here so you can change the actual implementations. For example, here, the logger, they're going to use log4j, but we're not. We're going to use the Java logger. It's built right into the JDK, and we don't have to configure log4j. Now the other one is the validator. And this is used, like I said, to protect against poorly formatted information. Here's one for email addresses, which we'll be using. There we go. So it's not reference, it is org logging dot java dot java log factory. There we go. That's what it is. Okay, we also need to create one other file. Okay, so it was complaining that it didn't have this file which controls essentially the format of logging output. All right, and finally what we want to do is we want to change the scope of this dependency so that it's not just used for compiling, but also is packaged with the WAR file, and that's because the EsApi utilizes the older Servlet API, the Java X servlet rather than Jakarta servlet, but Tomcat is based on the Jakarta servlet API that changed somewhere around version 8 or 7 of Java. And so if you look at the servlet here at the top, you'll notice that all the imports are jakarta.servlet and so on. And but if you were to follow the ESPA validator API through to its implementations, you'd see that they're still using the javax.servlet API. And so if you bundle it with it, then some of those dependencies won't be broken and the whole thing will work. Okay, let's run it. Excellent. And here's the check for the format. And if we go back and we actually pick a date and hit submit, then it shows you the date. That's it.